Have you ever wondered what the earth still remembers when all voices fade? Welcome to Unearthed Secrets, where stone, wind, and silence tell the stories time forgot. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and share where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now breathe with the earth and listen to what it's been waiting to say. The tomb that sang in stone. Before the sun brushes the hills of Bodrum, the sea already stirs. Gentle swells whisper against the harbor stones, and the air carries that soft salt scent that makes you feel older than you are, as though the Aegean itself is remembering. The water is calm this morning, and in its stillness lies a reflection of something vast. A story that once rose in marble and music, a song carved in stone that the world forgot how to hear. They called it one of the seven wonders, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, but names never held its truth. Long before it became a ruin, it was a promise, one carved for love and for eternity. Mist drifts through olive groves on the hillsides, silver leaves trembling in the first breath of wind. The streets of the modern town stretch lazily along the curve of the bay, their white walls shining faint in the early light. But beneath them, beneath centuries of footsteps, fragments of something older wait, columns, foundations, the ghosts of pillars that once held the weight of memory itself. If you stand still enough, you can almost hear it. Not a voice, but a hum, faint, resonant, traveling through the earth, the kind of sound that remains when beauty refuses to die. The mausoleum was never a tomb alone. It was a language of devotion, built not only to honor a ruler, but to capture the feeling of mourning itself. Mausolus, the satrap of Caria, had ruled this land with steady hand and curious mind. He loved Greek design, Persian ceremony, and the idea that stone could speak. When he died, his wife and sister, Artemisia, ordered a monument so extraordinary that the earth itself might remember his name, and it did. The builders came from far away, masters from Athens, from Rhodes, from across the Aegean, each bringing their craft as offering. Sculptors whose names still linger in marble, Scopas, Bryaxis, Leocares, and Timotheus. They built not a fortress, not a temple, but a dream of balance, a structure both earth and sky, weight and song. Imagine it now, as morning blooms across the coast, a vast marble base rising from terraces of stone, steps leading upward through gardens of cypress and laurel, walls gleaming white, veined faintly with gold, and at its heart, the chamber, quiet, shadowed, filled with fragrance of oil and cedar, holding the sarcophagus that bore his name. Above that chamber, columns soared, 36 of them, each as tall as the tallest pine. They encircled the tomb like music encircling silence, their capitals carved with lions, horses, and the curling leaves of acanthus. Between them stood statues, gods and heroes locked in eternal motion, their bodies alive in the stillness of stone. And crowning it all, a pyramid of marble steps, narrowing upward to a platform where two figures rode a chariot, drawn by 4 horses. Mausolus and Artemisia, carved larger than life, turning eternally toward the horizon. When the wind moved through the columns, it made a sound like breath. When rain fell, it struck the marble in rhythm, as if the tomb itself had learned to sing. Even now, some say, on certain nights when the sea is calm, you can hear faint notes drifting through the ruins, a low vibration, almost below hearing, rising from the stone foundations. The tomb still hums, they say, still mourning, still remembering. The sun climbs higher, light spills across the sea, flooding the harbor in gold. The ruins lie quiet behind low walls, shaded by wild fig trees. Blocks of marble lie scattered where time left them. Fragments of columns, traces of relief, faces softened by centuries of wind and salt. You step between them, each stone a word in a broken language. The earth beneath smells faintly of dust and time. Cicadas hum in the distance. Every sound feels distant, as if the present refuses to disturb the past too loudly. One column base still stands, carved with fluted grooves that rise only to vanish into emptiness. On its side, faint lines of tool marks remain, the fingerprints of long-forgotten hands. You touch it gently. The surface is rough, worn, but beneath that erosion lies something smooth, a memory of precision. The stone was once polished so finely it caught the sun and threw it back like light off water. People once came here from across the Mediterranean to see it. Sailors spoke of it glowing white above the harbor at night. Poets wrote of its columns as frozen music. Philosophers called it an argument in marble, proof that love could outlast mortality, but nothing lasts untouched. Centuries later, earthquakes came. The earth shifted, slow and merciless. Pillars cracked. The roof fell inward. Sculptures toppled and shattered. The tomb's great heart split open, its chambers collapsing into silence. And yet, silence does not erase song. It only hides it. In the 15th century, the Knights of St. John came to this shore and found the broken wonder. They carried its marble to the fortress by the sea, using its beauty to build their walls. Even there, fragments of the tomb still sang. Lions and riders, gods and warriors, now guarding battlements instead of graves. You can still see them today, embedded in the walls of Bodrum Castle, their eyes gazing seaward, as if waiting for the mausoleum to rise again from memory. But the foundation remains, and that is where you stand. Wind sweeps through the stones, carrying a faint salt breath from the sea. The sound moves between broken blocks, whistling low, softening into a note too perfect to be accidental. It seems to come from nowhere, or from everywhere at once. You close your eyes. It is not a voice. It is resonance, the vibration of stone remembering its purpose. A whisper beneath thought. I was built to hold love. I still do. When you open your eyes, the light has changed, deeper now. Amber, the hour between day and shadow. The ruins glow faintly in the warmth. Grass ripples along the edges of fallen walls. The world feels as though it has stopped speaking, listening instead. Artemisia did not live long after Mausolus. Some say she drank his ashes mixed with wine, believing love could live through blood. Some say she stood upon these very stones and felt her heart join his in stillness. Whatever truth lies in those stories, her monument achieved what she wanted. It made mourning eternal. Even in ruin it endures. Tourists come now, cameras flashing softly, feet whispering on gravel. They stand where the columns once stood, where sculptors shaped eternity, where devotion became architecture. Some read plaques, some look out to sea. A few close their eyes, not knowing why, only feeling that something inside them has grown quiet. You sit on a low wall, watching light drift across the stones. The hum returns, faint, continuous, as if the air itself vibrates between layers of time. Maybe it's wind, maybe it's the low murmur of the sea, or maybe it's something older, the earth's heartbeat, slow and patient, echoing the pulse that once filled this place. Above the ruins, swallows dart and turn, wings cutting arcs in the fading sky. They dive low, brushing past columns that no longer rise, calling in high, sweet tones that sound almost like laughter or song. Their echoes carry through the open air, bouncing softly from stone to stone. The mausoleum sings again, just for a moment, and the mountain listens. Night begins to gather over Bodrum, lights flicker to life along the waterfront, reflections dancing on the darkening water. The sea hums with the sound of distant engines and lapping waves, and through it all, beneath, you can still hear that low, steady resonance like the breath of stone. You stay until the stars appear. They rise one by one above the Aegean, cold and steady, watching as they have watched for all the centuries since marble first touched sky. And when you finally turn to leave, the hum follows, soft, persistent, alive. You realize it was never the tomb that sang. It was what it was built to hold: memory, love, endurance, and those things, once given shape, never truly fall silent. The night air is cool now. You step away from the ruins, down toward the sea. The waves catch the starlight, the water moving like molten glass. Behind you, the stones remain, not waiting, not mourning, simply being. They do not need rebuilding. They do not need to speak. They have already said everything. The streets of Bodrum at night are gentle. The sea sighs against the harbor, and lamps shimmer in long ripples over the water. People walk, soft-voiced, along the promenade. The air carries the faint scent of grilled fish, tobacco, jasmine, and salt. Yet somewhere beneath that warmth of living, another current moves, an undersong of something older, patient, waiting. You wander away from the cafes and narrow lanes, back toward the hill where the ruins rest. It is quiet here, away from the sea, where the stones lie silver under the moon. You step over low walls, each block cool beneath your fingers, each edge worn down by centuries of light and weather. The marble catches moonlight and releases it softly, as if the stone itself still remembers how to glow. In the hush of night, the foundations look whole again. You can almost see it, columns gleaming under moon, shadows of sculpted gods pacing their endless circuits around the tomb, a faint shimmer where once chariot wheels carved the sky. The air grows very still, as though the mountain is holding its breath. The sound begins faintly. Not music, not wind, a vibration, deep, subtle, running through the soles of your feet. It hums through the stone, up your spine, into your chest. You cannot tell if it is real or remembered, but it fills you with the same gravity as silence inside a cathedral. You close your eyes. For a heartbeat, the centuries dissolve. You stand in the hall of columns. Torches flicker along the marble walls. The air is cool, perfumed with cedar and oil. Mourners walk slowly, their robes whispering over the floor. Above, artisans work by lamplight, chiseling the last curve of a god's hand, the final fold of stone fabric. Outside, the sea murmurs against the docks, carrying ships from every shore of the known world. And at the center of the chamber, beneath a roof of carved constellations, lies the sarcophagus, white marble flecked with gold. Two figures kneel beside it, one still and silent, one alive and breaking. She places her hand upon the lid. The stone answers with sound, not loud, but endless. A tone so low it feels like breath caught in the chest of the world. She does not cry. The sound holds her. The song holds her. It is not sorrow, but continuation. Then slowly, the vision folds back into darkness. You open your eyes to the present, the ruin, the moonlight, the night air soft against your skin. Nothing has changed, and yet everything feels different. The hum remains, low beneath perception. The same frequency perhaps that once moved through marble walls when torches burned and prayers drifted upward. Maybe it is only the wind moving through cracks. Maybe it is memory resonating inside matter. Or maybe stone remembers emotion, the way water remembers shape. You walk along the edge of the site, each step quiet on the gravel. From this height, the sea is a sheet of liquid mercury, the stars mirrored upon it. Down below, modern lights scatter across the coast, tiny fires glowing where ancient ships once anchored. Somewhere, faintly, the music of a lute drifts through the air, winding through streets like smoke. You sit on a fragment of column. Its surface is smooth where generations of hands have touched it. Beneath your palm you feel warmth lingering, from sun, from air, from countless days of being seen. You wonder how many hands have rested here before yours. Sailors, scholars, lovers, people who came not to grieve, but simply to feel part of something that once reached for eternity. The mausoleum may be gone, but what it meant remains. That grief can be beautiful, that remembrance can take form, that love, expressed fully, does not vanish when walls fall. A moth circles the air near your shoulder, silver wings catching starlight. It hovers, then settles on the stone beside you, perfectly still. You both breathe the same air, warm, ancient, quiet, the same air that once moved through columns and torchlight. In the distance a bell rings from the harbor, slow, measured, carrying through the night like a call across time. Each tone echoes softly against the hill, fades and returns. The sound feels familiar, as if the tomb's song has simply found a new instrument. You look back one last time. The ruins rest beneath a thin veil of mist. The broken lines of the foundations are not ruins now, but a map, a pattern of endurance drawn into the land. The sea wind moves across it gently, humming through gaps between stones. It sounds almost like breath, almost like words. You listen. The air says nothing, but you understand anyway. Love does not fade, it becomes landscape. The sky lightens slightly at the edges. Not dawn yet, but the first rumor of it. A gray wash over the horizon. A promise. The night's chill softens. You rise, brush the dust from your coat, and begin the slow walk back toward the town. Each step sounds deliberate, rhythmic, as if your feet follow the same pace once set by builders carving marble on the slope. The same rhythm that echoed from hammer to chisel, from heart to heart, from one age to another. The rhythm that shaped a tomb, and in doing so, shaped memory itself. The air behind you carries faint song. Perhaps it is wind through stones. Perhaps it is imagination. Perhaps it is the echo of what was always meant to be heard only by those who arrive without haste. The mausoleum stands no more, but its song endures in the breath of every ruin, in the stillness of every monument that remembers why it was built. Not for power, not for fear of death, but for the courage to love so deeply that even stone would learn to sing. You reach the edge of the hill. The sea greets you again. Soft waves, silver light, quiet. You pause, look back once more, and whisper, not to be heard, but to be part of the silence. Thank you. Wind passes your words through the columns that are no longer there, and carries them down to the sea. The sound returns faintly, reshaped by air and time. Not an answer, just an echo. And in that echo, the tomb sings once more, softly, endlessly, as all love songs do. The crown of the sleeping lion. Before dawn brushes the Sahara, the world lies folded in shadow. The desert is not empty, it merely rests. Wind breathes softly through the low valleys of the Ahagar Mountains, carrying the dust of 1,000 forgotten mornings. The sky, still half asleep, fades slowly from deep violet to pale rose, and along the horizon, the outline of the great lion begins to emerge. At first it is only shape, a long ridge of stone, curved like the spine of some great creature at rest. But as the light strengthens, its form grows clear, a colossal lion, lying in sleep, its mane carved by wind and time, its crown shaped by peaks that catch the earliest fire of the sun. The locals call it Jebel El Arus, the mountain of the bride, but among older tongues it was once called the sleeping lion, the guardian of the endless sands, and upon its brow, where rock meets sky, lies a shrine so old the desert itself may have forgotten when it began. You walk toward it long before the heat comes, when air is still thin and cool, when each footstep leaves a whisper in the dust and vanishes almost as soon as it's made. The ground is hard, veined with pale quartz that glitters faintly in the dawn. Around you, the desert rolls in soft waves, dunes leaning gently toward one another, as if listening. There are no roads, no signs, no sound except your own breathing and the hush of the wind moving through stone. Far to the east, the first sunlight breaks. The lion's mane glows gold, shadows pool in the hollows of its flanks. Its massive head, half buried in rock, seems to watch the horizon with eternal patience. You pause. There is a feeling that cannot be named, the quiet gravity of being seen by something that does not move. The shrine sits at the crown, near what would be the lion's brow, a ring of stones so weathered they look like the ribs of the mountain itself. Some lean inward, others tilt outward, but together they form a circle no sandstorm has ever erased. In the center, a single slab lies flat, carved faintly with symbols that the wind has nearly swallowed. The air here feels different, cooler, more still, as if it holds its own breath. You climb slowly, careful with each step. The slope is steep, but not unfriendly. Pebbles slide, dust curls upward in soft spirals. The light grows stronger, filling every crack, every shadow. At this height, the desert spreads beneath you, endless, rippling, alive in its stillness. When you reach the top, the wind greets you like an old friend. It does not howl, it hums, low and constant, a note that seems to come from within the stone itself. The shrine awaits, patient, unchanged. No one knows who built it, not the Tuareg who roam these lands, nor the scholars who map their forgotten roots. Some say it was a temple to the desert gods, others that it marks the resting place of an ancient queen, her crown turned to mountain. There are stories of priests who came to speak to the wind, and of hermits who lived here until they became part of the rock. You kneel beside the circle. The symbols on the slab catch the morning light. They are faint but deliberate, lines spiraling inward, intersecting like paths or rivers, surrounding a single hollow in the center. You trace them with your fingertips. The grooves are shallow, smooth. They lead always toward the middle, as though the entire mountain breathes from that single point. You lean closer, and hear it, a sound so low it might be imagined, a hum rising through the stone, the deep vibration of earth remembering its own shape. The tone swells gently, fading in and out like waves beneath sand. It feels alive, it feels old. Somewhere deep below, the desert speaks. The Tuareg call this sound the lion's breath. They say when the wind passes through hidden caverns beneath the ridge, it sings in the voice of the mountain. Some claim the tone changes with the season, deep in winter, lighter in summer, as if the earth itself tunes its heart to the heat of the sun. You close your eyes, the hum threads through your bones, each breath you take falls into rhythm with it, slow and heavy, until your body no longer feels separate from the mountain. You are sitting on stone, but also within it. The air moves, the sound flows, and you begin to feel as though time has stopped keeping count. The wind shifts. Sand rises around the stones, swirls once, then falls. In that brief motion, light shatters across the quartz and you glimpse something on the horizon. A shimmer that could be mirage, could be memory. Shapes of stone that might have been pillars once. A line of shadow that could be an ancient road, or simply the mark of a vanished river. The shrine stands alone now, but once perhaps it was not. You open your eyes again. The sound is gone. Only silence remains, vast and warm and clean. The sun climbs higher. Heat begins to touch your skin. The world brightens, and for a moment, everything seems to breathe together. The sky, the desert, the lion, you. You walk along the crown, your steps echoing softly in the hollow spaces between rocks. In places, carvings still cling to the surface, faint spirals, stars, hands pressed into stone. They look like prayers, like attempts to mark the passing of something unseen. The wind returns, gentler now, carrying the scent of dust and sun-heated rock. You pause at the edge of the ridge and look out across the Sahara. The dunes stretch forever, waves of gold fading into white heat. In the far distance, mirages shimmer, turning air into water, time into illusion. A single hawk glides past, wings wide, riding a current invisible to you. It circles once above the lion's head, then drifts toward the horizon, vanishing into glare. You sit again at the center of the shrine. The stone beneath you is warm now. The hum does not return, but you feel its echo, faint and steady, like heartbeat deep within the earth. You realize the sound is not gone, it has only moved inward, into silence. The desert around you holds stories too vast to be spoken. The people who once built this shrine left no words, only alignment. The stones face not toward east or west, but toward a star that no longer shines where it used to. Proof of ages passing beyond count. And perhaps that is the point. The shrine was not built to be remembered, it was built to remember, to let the mountain watch, to let the wind listen, to let silence carry what voices could not. You stand, brush dust from your hands, and feel the weight of the sun grow stronger on your back. Noon approaches, shadows vanish, the mountain gleams white and gold, the lion's shape fades slightly into brightness, as if returning to sleep. You begin the descent, pebbles shift underfoot, the sound of your steps is swallowed quickly by air. At the base you turn once more to look. The shrine is smaller now, but the ridge still holds its shape, the long body stretched across the horizon, the head resting on folded paws, the crown rising where you just stood. The sleeping lion remains. You understand now why those who travel the desert whisper to it when they pass. small words of thanks, or hope, or simple acknowledgement. Because here, amid all this emptiness, something listens. And when the wind moves again, threading between the stones, it carries those voices upward, across time, toward the lion's ear, and the mountain hums in answer. The sound is low, endless, like the breath of the world. Afternoon stretches long across the desert. Heat thickens until the air seems to shimmer in place. Every ridge blurs, every shadow softens. Even the wind slows, exhausted by its own motion. The world becomes a single note of sunlight, pure, unwavering, endless. The lion sleeps again. You walk along the lower slopes where dry grass curls and snaps beneath your boots. In crevices, tiny lizards dart between stones, their scales catching the glare like fragments of bronze. The desert is quiet, but not dead. Nothing here truly is. Life hides in pause, moving only when no one watches. At a small spring near the base, you stop. The water is clear, cold, and impossibly still. A thin mirror framed by reeds and pale rocks. When you kneel to drink, the reflection trembles, and for an instant you see the mountain inverted upon its surface, the lion's head pointing down into another sky, its stone mane dissolving into ripples. The image feels like a secret the earth meant to keep but showed you by mistake. You stay there for a while, breathing the heavy air, listening. No sounds of city or engine, no human echo, only the slow creak of heat across metal on your pack, and the soft hiss of sand shifting under its own weight. In the distance, dunes lean toward the horizon like waves held mid-tide. As the sun begins its descent, color returns. The world, bleached all day, finds pigment again. Amber deepens to rose. The shadows on the lion's face return, sharp and strong. The shrine at the crown darkens into silhouette. The wind stirs once more, carrying the smell of stone cooled by coming night. You climb partway back, not all the way to the shrine but to a ledge below it. The light there feels balanced. Day not gone, night not born. You sit with your back against the rock and let your heart beat slow to match the rhythm of the mountain's breath. The first stars appear above the desert. They blink slowly, uncertain at first, then multiply, spilling across the sky like scattered embers. The Lion Mountain glows faintly beneath them, its outline traced in pale silver. Somewhere out of sight, a drumbeat begins. Faint, irregular, maybe thunder, far away, maybe human hands on stretched skin. The sound moves through the air, low and round, answering something inside the earth. You feel it in your ribs, in your pulse. The mountain, the drum, your breath, all one rhythm. You think of the old stories again, of guardians carved from stone, of mountains that never fully sleep. The Tuareg tell of nights when the lion wakes, not to move, but to listen. When the desert grows too quiet, they say, the mountain hums to keep the world alive. Its voice travels beneath sand, touching every buried ruin, every forgotten well, every caravan trail erased by wind. The air cools quickly now. You wrap your scarf tighter and watch the horizon bleed from orange to indigo. The stars sharpen. The desert exhales, releasing the heat it held all day. The shrine above you glows faintly, where moonlight finds the pale quartz between stones. The hum returns, almost too low to notice at first, but once heard impossible to forget. It begins as vibration, not sound, a pressure in the air, in the bones. Then tone emerges, deep and resonant, the same note you felt that morning. It rises, fades, then returns, weaving through silence like breath between heartbeats. Wind joins it, a whisper through cracks and hollows, shaping the tone into something that might once have been melody. You close your eyes. The hum becomes larger than hearing, a feeling that fills you from within. Your heartbeat slows to match, your lungs follow. For a few moments you no longer know if you are breathing or being breathed. And in that space between thought and stillness, a story unfolds, not in words but in understanding. Long before names, before lines on maps, before language divided sand from sky, someone stood here and heard this same sound. They marked the place with stone not to worship, but to remember that the earth itself was alive. They built the circle, not as temple, but as reminder. When storms come, when empires rise and fade, the mountain hums, steady, eternal, unbroken. It was their way of saying, listen, life endures. You open your eyes. The moon has climbed higher, a perfect coin above the horizon. Its light spreads across the desert, turning sand into sea. Every ridge gleams, every hollow deepens. The lion's face looks awake now, silver eyes gazing into distance. The shrine glows like a crown of frost. The hum softens again, fading into the wind. Silence returns, vast and calm. But silence here is not emptiness, it is presence. The mountain continues to breathe. You simply cannot hear it anymore. You rise, stretch your stiff legs, and begin the slow descent by moonlight. The sand glows faintly beneath each step, and the stones seem to absorb the sound of your passage. The air is cool and clean, tasting of quartz and distance. At the base, you pause and turn once more. The lion sleeps again, crowned in stars. The shrine upon its head is only a shadow now, but its outline remains, perfect, patient, unchanging. You whisper a few words, not prayer, not farewell, just gratitude. The wind carries them upward, scattering them across the ridge like handfuls of dust. Then you walk on, your figure small against the vast plain, footsteps fading into sand. Behind you, the mountain keeps its vigil, a guardian of silence, a crown of stone upon the brow of earth, holding memory steady beneath the endless turning of the sky. And somewhere deep inside its heart, where air meets rock and sound becomes stillness, the lion breathes again, softly, eternally, a song too low for hearing, too true to vanish. The road where the gods returned. Before morning reaches Brittany, the air already stirs with memory. The sea is near, though you cannot see it yet, and its breath slides softly across the fields, cool and tasting faintly of salt. Mist clings low to the earth, and through it, shapes begin to emerge. Tall, narrow, gray. Stone after stone after stone, stretching farther than the eye can follow. They rise not as ruins nor as monuments, but as presence, an army of silence standing beneath a pale sky. The locals call them le menhirs, the long stones, and they have been here longer than story, longer than gods, longer than time remembers to count. There are more than 3,000 of them at Karnak, each weathered, each unique, standing in long, deliberate lines that ripple through the landscape like frozen waves. Some are small as a child's shoulder, others tower 3 meters high. Together they form avenues that march across fields toward the horizon, unwavering and exact. From above they resemble the ribs of the earth, a pattern so precise that it feels like intention, not accident. Each stone aligned to its neighbor, each row bending gently toward the sea, as if pointing to a memory buried beneath the tide. You walk among them as dawn softens the sky, dew beads along the heather. The ground is cold beneath your boots. The mist curls around each stone like breath escaping from another time. They seem still, yet something in their stillness moves you. Your fingertips trace the rough lichen-covered surface of one. It is cool and damp. Beneath the moss, tool marks hide, faint, ancient, as if the hands that made them were still guiding yours. You feel the texture of patience, of time shaped, not taken. A gull cries far away, and the sound folds back upon itself in the fog. The stones do not echo it, they absorb it, swallowing sound into their weight. They have stood here for nearly 7,000 years, long before the pyramids, long before written word, when ice still gripped the north and forests covered the plains. When people lived by firelight and the rhythm of stars, they carried these stones, hundreds of tons across the land to stand them upright, one by one, in lines that trace the shape of something long forgotten. Why? No one truly knows. Some say they were a map for the heavens, a calendar of light and shadow. Others claim they mark the paths where the gods descended, a road between worlds laid in stone. Local legend, older than the language it was told in, says they were once a Roman army, turned to rock by a druid's spell at dawn. But even that story, playful as it sounds, holds a seed of truth. These stones are transformation itself, life becoming memory, motion becoming stillness, time becoming form. The fog begins to lift. The lines stretch clear now, endless. Each avenue of menhirs leads the eye toward the horizon where the sun is rising. The first light spills between them, gold threading through gray, and for a moment the entire field glows, a constellation of stone, lit not from above but from within. You breathe in the cold air. It smells of wet earth, of old grass, of the faint sweetness of salt carried from the distant coast. Somewhere to the west, waves crash faintly against rock, a sound that feels both immediate and ancient, as if the sea remembers too. You walk slowly, following one of the lines. The stones flank you on both sides, guardians of something unseen. Their spacing is exact, not random, not careless. A rhythm exists here, measured not in steps but in intervals of silence. At certain points, two lines converge into one, then divide again, like tributaries of a river. Others circle into rings or gather in clusters, their tops forming a pattern that only the sky could ever fully see. You begin to notice how they lean. Not all are upright. Some tilt slightly, always in the same direction, as if bowing toward an invisible pull. The geologists say it's the movement of the soil, the slow settling of centuries, but you suspect otherwise. There is reverence in their angle. You reach a clearing at the heart of the alignment. The grass here grows shorter, the ground smoother. The menhirs around it form a kind of chamber, open to the sky. In the center lies a single stone, broad and flat, an altar, perhaps, or simply a stage where the light performs its endless ritual. You kneel beside it, palm pressed to the stone's cold surface. For a moment you hear something low and distant, a vibration more than a sound. The hum of the earth itself, maybe, or the soft weight of 7,000 years humming through your hand. Every alignment has a voice, if you listen long enough. When the wind moves through these stones, it makes a sound no instrument can reproduce, deep, slow, changing with the angle of air. Some describe it as singing. others as breathing. To you it feels like time remembering how to move. As the sun climbs, the lines reveal their geometry. They are not random fields. They follow the arc of the solstice sunrise, the tilt of the moon's cycle, the drift of constellations that no longer align to where they once did. These stones were set with astronomical precision by people whose names we will never know, who read the heavens not with telescopes but with instinct, patience, and devotion. They watched light fall and shadow stretch. They measured the world by what it whispered, not what it showed. The wind shifts. The sea speaks louder now, a faint, continuous thunder from beyond the trees. You turn and walk toward it. The path between the menhirs narrows, leading downhill, each line falling away like an old road. At the edge of the field, the earth opens into view of the bay. The ocean stretches wide and gray-green, the horizon hazed in silver. The tide is low, exposing dark ribbons of seaweed and pale sand rippled by wind. Here the last row of stones ends abruptly, its final menhir leaning slightly forward, pointing toward the sea as if marking departure or return. It's easy to imagine the people who placed it, standing in this same wind, their hair lifted by salt air, watching the horizon. Did they wait for someone? Did they send something away? The name given later, the road where the gods returned, feels right. There is motion frozen here, an exit, a memory of arrival. Legends say that on certain nights when the moon is full and the tide withdraws far enough, lights move between the stones, faint blue-white glimmers, like embers floating just above the ground. Locals speak softly of them, half believing, half remembering. They call them les revenants du ciel, the sky returners. Spirits of those who came from the stars and promised to come again. Whether myth or mirage, the stones hold that promise still. The day stretches long. Shadows shorten, then lengthen again. The wind grows warmer, carrying scents of wild thyme and grass. Tourists appear in the distance, quiet shapes moving slowly, respectful of the hush that lingers here. Their voices are low, their laughter brief, as if the place itself moderates volume. You sit among the stones, letting their silence speak. Each one feels different. The texture of its surface, the angle of its lean, the faint hum when you rest your hand upon it. They are individuals, yet together they make something larger, a choir of stillness, a frozen procession of intention. In the distance, bells from a village chime noon. The sound drifts across the fields, touches the stones, and softens, transformed by distance into something almost melodic. The menhirs catch the sound, let it echo quietly between them, and release it into air. You realize, sitting there, that perhaps these stones were not built for worship at all. Maybe they were built to teach listening. The ancients knew what we forget. That stone has patience, and patience has voice. The mist returns late in the afternoon. It rises from the sea like a memory coming home. Slowly, the horizon fades. The stones retreat into shadow once more. Each shape becomes ghostly, half real. The road disappears. You close your eyes and hear it again. That low hum. Steady, distant, eternal. Not from the earth now, but from within. Evening descends gently over the Breton coast. The sky turns to pewter, the sea to glass. The wind softens, gathering its last warmth from the day, and the menhirs stand shadow-deep in the returning mist. You linger among them as twilight blooms, not bright, not dark, but that in-between color where the world seems to hold its breath. Birds call once, twice, then fall silent. The air grows cool and still. The horizon dissolves. It is at this hour, the old stories say, that the stones awaken, not in movement, but in memory. Their long silence becomes something alive. You can feel it, a slow pulse through the ground, faint, rhythmic, steady as breath. Each stone seems to share it, passing it along the line, one heartbeat through 3,000 bodies of stone. The hum you felt before returns, stronger now, vibrating softly in your bones. And for a moment, you see them not as objects but as lives, each one placed by hands that dreamed of meaning beyond their own. They were people with faces, laughter, weariness, faith. They hauled these giants from miles away, with ropes and branches, through mud and storm and season, to stand them in lines that could speak to the sky. They must have believed in something vast, not power, not empire, something quieter, continuity, perhaps. The belief that memory could be built, that devotion could be weight. You imagine them at night, gathered by firelight between these stones, watching the stars move above. They would have seen the Milky Way arcing perfectly over this field, matching the curve of their own creation, heaven mirrored in earth, the same stars you see now. You tilt your head back. The night has cleared. Between streaks of mist, constellations blaze. Orion rising over the western lines, Cassiopeia poised above the northern fields, the Pleiades clustered like sparks of frost. The alignment is uncanny. The stones do not point randomly, they frame the sky. The moon lifts itself above the sea, vast, pale, full. Its light falls over the stones like milk poured over slate, softening every edge. The menhirs cast long shadows that overlap, crossing and rejoining, forming pathways invisible by day. and then you see it. What no photograph ever captures. From a single vantage, standing near the heart of the field, the moonlight threads straight down one of the great avenues, touching the top of each menhir in sequence, one after another, like a ripple of light traveling through time. It moves slowly, impossibly precise. The road gleams. You understand, suddenly, that this is what they built for. Not worship, not walls, but witness. The stones are instruments of light. When moon and season align, they sing in radiance, marking not an event, but a rhythm, a calendar of eternity, measured not in years, but in illumination. It is no wonder they called this place divine, for here, at the edge of sea and land, time itself becomes visible. You breathe out. The sound of it is tiny against the vast hush, but the air catches it, carries it. You feel as if the menhirs themselves are listening, not to your voice but to your heartbeat. The legends call this alignment La Route des Dieux, the road of the gods. They say the gods came here once, walking from the horizon to the hills, and when they left their footprints in stone. But maybe it was the other way around. Maybe people built this road not for gods to return upon, but for their own souls to find their way home when breath was done. In that sense, the road never ends. It stretches through air, through sky, through the memory of every watcher who has ever stood here in quiet disbelief. A low breeze rises from the ocean, sliding through the stones. The hum deepens. You feel it at the base of your spine, the back of your throat. The sound of distance made audible, the sound of history breathing. The moon climbs higher, the stones gleam brighter, mist glows silver around their feet. The air is alive, moving, whispering, remembering. You think of all the ages that have passed since these stones first touched light. Storms, empires, languages born and gone. The people who placed them are gone, their names erased, their villages buried under centuries of earth. But the lines they drew remain, perfect as ever, patient as gods. Perhaps that was their prayer, that something of them would outlast forgetting. You reach out and rest your palm against one of the taller stones. It is warm now, holding the day's memory. Its surface hums faintly. Beneath your hand, lichen glows soft gray in the moonlight. You close your eyes and let the vibration move through you, a slow, pulsing reminder that life and time are the same material, shaped differently. The sound builds until it feels like a chord, thousands of notes layered across centuries, all resonating at once. Wind, wave, breath, heartbeat, stone. The night becomes a single tone, deep and full, and you realize you are hearing not the gods but the earth itself. And then silence. The wind stops, the air freezes. For one impossible moment, every stone stands brighter than before, shimmering as if lit from within. Then the glow fades, leaving only moonlight. You exhale slowly, half believing, half in awe. The hum does not return, but its echo remains inside you, a kind of quiet that feels alive, a stillness you can carry. You look once more toward the horizon. The sea gleams, silver and endless. The road of stones leads straight into it, vanishing beneath the tide. Perhaps it continues below the waves. Perhaps it never needed to. Either way, the meaning is clear. This is not the road where gods returned. It is the road where people learned how to find them. You walk back through the field, moonlight guiding your steps. The stones pass by, silent again, indifferent and eternal. The air smells of salt and grass. Each step crunches softly in dew. At the edge of the site, you turn once more. From here the lines blur into mist, disappearing into the sleeping landscape. You whisper, not words, just breath, and the mist seems to fold around it, carrying it somewhere beyond sight. The gods may not return, but the earth listens, and sometimes, that is enough. The statues that face the storm sea. Before dawn brushes the edge of Haida Gwaii, the sea already stirs with slow anger. The wind moves low across the water, whispering to the long swells that roll out of the Pacific, gray, cold, patient. Waves break against the rocks in white flashes that vanish as quickly as they appear, and on a narrow stretch of coast facing west toward the place where sun and storms are born, stand the watchers, tall cedar poles, darkened by time and salt, carved with faces that no longer close their eyes, the Haida watchmen. They have stood here longer than any living voice can recall, guardians of a village that once thrived at the edge of the world, when the great canoes of the Haida carried stories from island to island, and the sea was not barrier but home. Even now, the air here feels alive with presence. Mist curls through the trees, sea eagles circle above the shore, and in the space between wind and silence, you can almost hear them, the faint creak of cedar, the whisper of carving tools, the rhythm of waves that have shaped both land and memory for thousands of years. The watchmen are tall, some still upright, some leaning, others half fallen into the moss. Each bears a crown of carved figures, beings from myth and life, eagles, bears, frogs, men with wide staring eyes, and the watchmen themselves, 3 figures side by side at the very top. their hands resting on their knees, their faces turned toward the horizon. They do not look down at the village they once guarded. They look out, across the endless gray expanse, into the storm. At the foot of one, the ground is soft, soaked from last night's rain. Cedar roots twist through the earth like veins. A fallen pole lies nearby, its carvings worn smooth, eyes half buried in moss. You crouch beside it. The wood still smells faintly of resin and salt. A few flakes of red ochre cling to a groove, the last breath of color left by a hand that carved it centuries ago. The forest behind is thick, its silence full of breathing things. Spruce and hemlock rise in dense ranks, their trunks black with moisture, their branches heavy with lichen that hangs like hair. Between them, small clearings open, the ghost footprints of longhouses, their posts collapsed but their foundations still visible under the ferns. This was once Sgwai Linagai, the village of the Haida watchmen, a place of cedar smoke and salmon drying on racks, of drums and laughter and stories told by the fire when the sea growled too loudly to sleep. Now, only the carvings remain. Each pole once marked a house, a lineage, a story. The figures were not gods but histories, animals that carried ancestry, beings that lived in myth and lineage at once. The Haida carved not to worship, but to remember. And at the highest point of each pole stood the three watchmen, always three, their faces stern, their eyes wide, their gaze set on the horizon where weather was born. They were guardians, not of the living, but of the line between life and the forces that could erase it. Storms here are not metaphors, they are facts. The Pacific does not whisper at Haida Gwaii, it arrives. Walls of water that travel across the world to meet this shore, striking cedar, salt and stone with a force that feels both alive and ancient. The Haida built their homes with that knowledge. They carved their memory into poles not to outlast the sea, but to stand beside it, to speak to it, to honor its power, to remind it that the people remembered. You walk closer to the shore. The air is cold, heavy with the taste of salt and wood smoke. Waves crash below, scattering white foam against black rock. The sound moves through your ribs, deep, steady, endless. The watchmen stand above you now, their silhouettes black against the gray sky. One has lost its crown, the top figures broken by wind. Another leans forward, its face angled toward the surf, as though listening. The third, the tallest, remains whole. Three faces, carved centuries ago, staring out through mist and spray, their cedar eyes fixed forever on the horizon. Their gaze feels both heavy and gentle, like the weight of attention that never ends. A raven lands nearby, its claws tapping softly on the wooden shoulder of the pole. It turns its head, caws once, and takes flight again, a dark ripple against the fog. Its cry echoes faintly between the trees and the sea, fading into the rhythm of the waves. The Haida believed the raven brought the sun into the world, that he was a trickster, yes, but also the one who gave light to the people. When the raven calls, stories wake, and so you listen. The forest breathes, the sea exhales, and through that layered sound, you begin to hear another, not a voice, not exactly, but cadence. The low hum of cedar swaying in wind, the scrape of bark, the faint rhythm of rain against wood. The watchmen are speaking, not with words, but with endurance. Their language is weather. To stand in front of them is to stand before the memory of resilience, of a people who carved their history from the same trees that sheltered them, who faced an ocean that both fed and tested them, who gave shape to the unseen so it could stand among them in cedar form. As the day brightens, the mist thins. Light moves through the clouds in shifting blades, striking the sea, the rocks, the poles. The carvings come alive in the changing angles, faces deepening, eyes catching faint gold, hands seeming to tighten on knees. Shadows move across their forms like breath. You can imagine the village alive again. Fires burning, children running between houses, the smell of fish and smoke, the steady tap of adze carving new poles. Songs rising against wind. They sang to cedar before cutting it. They asked permission, gave thanks. They believed that trees carried souls, and that each pole was a life transformed. A being that had chosen to stand between worlds. When the pole was raised, it was not done in silence. Drums beat, voices called out. The people pulled together, ropes creaking, bodies straining, laughter mixing with chant as the cedar rose into place. And when it stood, the wind filled its carved mouths, and the poles breathed with the world. The watchmen took their place above all, their eyes cast toward the horizon, where storm clouds gathered like slow thoughts. Centuries later, they still face that same horizon. The sea has not grown gentler, the storms still come. Yet here they stand, scarred, leaning, worn, still upright, still looking outward. Even in decay, there is dignity. Even in silence, there is voice. You walk between them now, careful not to step on the roots or fallen carvings. The ground is soft with moss. Each step sinks slightly, releasing the scent of cedar and salt. In the distance, waves break against the cliffs, a steady percussion that never stops. It's easy to forget where you are. Time folds here. The sound of the ocean could be from 1,000 years ago or from this morning. The same wind that moves your hair once carried smoke from the old longhouses. The same mist that beads on your jacket once settled on the shoulders of the carvers who shaped these figures. The present is only another layer of the same story. You stop beside one of the fallen poles. The carvings are barely visible now, softened by rain and age, but a shape remains, an open mouth, eyes wide, a hand raised as if still calling to the sea. You brush away a layer of moss. Beneath, the cedar glows faintly orange, untouched by rot. The scent that rises is sharp, alive. Cedar does not die easily. It lingers, keeping memory in its fibers. The Haida call cedar the tree of life. It gave them homes, canoes, clothing, and their stories. Even the dead were laid to rest in cedar chests. The watchmen were its final gift. Cedar transformed into watchfulness, guardians whose silence still holds the pulse of the forest. The tide begins to turn. Waves strike harder. Wind rises from the west, carrying spray that stings your cheeks. The air thickens with the scent of salt. The forest bends slightly, its treetops swaying. The watchmen face the storm, as they always have. Their carved eyes catch the first drops of rain. The sound begins, a hiss, then a rhythm, rain drumming on wood, on leaves, on the wide gray back of the sea. And for a heartbeat, it feels like the world is drumming with them. The watchmen do not move. They have never needed to. Movement belongs to the living. Endurance belongs to the sacred. Lightning flashes far offshore. The thunder follows, a single low roll that vibrates through ground and bone alike. The rain intensifies. The sea roars. And yet the watchmen remain, still, unbroken, facing the storm. The storm does not last long. It never does here. It moves through like a living thing, furious, brief, and certain. When it passes, the world exhales. The sea quiets. Rain softens to mist again, wrapping the forest and the poles in a single gray breath. The smell of wet cedar rises, sweet, resinous, ancient. You sit beneath one of the standing watchmen, your back against its massive base. The wood is slick, cool to the touch, but steady. Rain beads and rolls down the carvings, tracing their contours as though revealing them anew. In the hush that follows a storm, sound changes. Every drop of water that falls from a leaf lands with the weight of a heartbeat. Every distant wave breaks as if it were the first. Somewhere deeper in the forest, a raven calls once, its voice sharp but lonely, cutting through the quiet. The watchmen stand above you, their faces dark against a sky clearing to silver. Their gaze still locked on the horizon, where the last flashes of lightning fade into the sea's far edge. The air feels heavy with meaning. As if the storm was not something endured, but something answered. These poles have seen thousands of storms. They have felt snow and salt, fire and lichen. They have watched the rise and fall of empires far beyond these islands, and still they stand. When missionaries came and villages emptied, when silence replaced song, the watchmen remained, their eyes unclosed. They faced the ocean as they always had, not in defiance but in recognition. You look at them and see patience, the kind that outlives despair. Their carved faces have softened, yes, but their expression has not changed. A small curve of the mouth here, a stern brow there, each detail still exactly where it was placed by the carver's hand. The wood remembers shape even when time forgets names. The clouds begin to break. A thin line of sun slips between them, spreading a faint gold across the horizon. The sea shivers with light. For a moment the water and sky are indistinguishable, a single endless mirror in motion, and then you hear it. Not from the poles but from somewhere beneath them. A low, deep hum. The sound of the wind trapped in the hollow heart of cedar. It resonates like the note of a drum struck centuries ago and still vibrating in the wood. The Haida say the watchmen are alive, not as trees were, but in another way. They hold stories. Each face carved into their surface is a voice. When the wind moves through them, those voices speak. You close your eyes. The hum grows stronger, not louder, just nearer. It fills the space between your ribs, the space between breaths. You imagine the carvers who made these shapes, men and women bent over cedar with bone tools, the sound of adze against grain blending with the crash of waves. Each strike a promise, each cut a word. The watchmen are not idols. They are conversations made visible. They speak between the people and the world that surrounds them, between the sea that feeds and the storm that takes, between the forest that shelters and the sky that judges. They are bridges in the shape of cedar. You open your eyes. The rain has stopped entirely. Drops cling to the carvings, catching sunlight as it strengthens. Tiny prisms of light scatter across their surfaces, turning scars into gleam, turning age into ornament. The tallest of them leans slightly now, but even that angle seems purposeful, as if bowing to what endures beyond even them. The smaller poles near the tree line are covered in moss, their carvings half swallowed by green. Yet even in decay, they hold beauty, the line of a jaw, the curve of a wing, these remain. Somewhere behind you, the forest moves. A small wind stirs through ferns, and the whisper of rainwater sliding down trunks. You can almost feel the breath of the cedar trees that still live, their roots deep, their trunks rising straight as remembered prayers. The forest and the poles are not separate things. One feeds the other. The Haida call this relationship Yal Gudai Tlatska, the breath that connects all things. To breathe is to belong. Even the sea breathes, they say, even the stones. You stay seated until the mist thins entirely and sunlight floods the clearing. The watchmen glow now, warm gold against deep green. The sea below sparkles, calm as glass. It is hard to imagine that only an hour ago it raged. That is the lesson, perhaps. The watchmen do not resist the storm. They meet it, they face it, they endure it, not by standing against it, but by standing with it. Every scar on their surface is a story of contact. Wind against wood, salt against grain, time against memory. You rise and step closer to one of the poles. You place your palm against its chest. The wood is warm now from sunlight. It feels alive. Not like something made, but something grown. You keep your hand there until your breath matches the slow rhythm of the sea below. For a long moment, the world feels whole. The watchmen face the horizon. The forest stands behind them. You between the two. The air smells of cedar and salt and light. Far out on the water, a line of waves approaches. Gentle this time, bright under the sun. They roll in, break softly and withdraw. Again and again, without end. The same motion, the same pattern that has shaped this place for thousands of years. You turn once more to the watchmen. In the changing light, their faces seem to shift. The eyes narrow, the mouths soften, not alive in the way of movement, but in the way of meaning. They look not at the sea now, but through it, beyond storm, beyond horizon. You understand, suddenly, that their purpose was never simply to watch. They were meant to remind that everything faces the storm eventually, that endurance is not silence, but song carried in the fibers of what remains, that to remember is to live twice. The raven calls again, nearer this time. You look up and see it circling above the tallest pole, its wings catching the sun. It glides once, twice, then disappears into the forest. The watchmen stay, the sea breathes, the sky opens, and for the briefest moment, you can hear it, soft as memory, steady as tide, the world speaking through cedar. You begin to walk away, leaving footprints in the damp moss. Behind you the watchmen remain, faces to the sea, their gaze eternal. The storm will come again, they will not turn away, and in their silence they will continue to sing. The circle that woke the sky. Before dawn comes to the Shetland Isles, the North Sea breathes in slow gray swells. The horizon blurs into mist, and the wind tastes of iron and salt, the flavor of ancient stone and distant storms. Along this coast, the land does not end sharply. It unravels into cliffs and inlets, dark against the restless pale water. And there, where the land bends inward like the palm of a hand cupping the sea, a tower stands. Round, unmoving, perfect in its silence. The locals call it the Brookie of Musa, the best preserved brook in all of Scotland. But long before it had a name, it was simply a circle that woke the sky. You first see it as the mist thins, a gray column rising from the grass, 40 feet high, built from dry stone stacked with impossible precision. No mortar, no binding, only gravity, patience and design. It has stood here for 2,000 years, watching centuries roll over these islands like waves over sand. The wind hushes as you approach, as if unwilling to disturb its balance. The stones are dark with age, their edges softened by salt air. Seabirds circle above, gulls and terns crying, their calls thin and sharp. The ocean moves just beyond, heavy and rhythmic, its breath an endless counterpoint to the stillness of the tower. You walk through the low archway, ducking beneath a lintel that has weathered more winters than you could ever count. Inside, the air changes. It is cooler, denser, the sound of the sea fades. What remains is echo, a soft, endless return of every step you take, as if the brooch itself is repeating your presence to itself. The walls rise around you in a double helix of stone, 2 layers built hollow, with a narrow staircase winding upward between them. Each step is rough, uneven, but deliberate. Light filters down through small openings, falling across the interior like water. You touch the wall as you climb. The stone is cold, dry, rough beneath your fingers, yet it feels alive in its solidity, the weight of countless hands that placed each piece so that it would hold forever. This is no castle. It is older, purer, a design without vanity. Its strength lies not in its size but in its geometry. The circle gathers wind, light, and time, and turns them into stillness. When you reach the top, the world opens. The sea spreads endlessly, pewter and silver. The islands lie scattered, low and green, each wrapped in its own haze of mist. The air is sharp enough to taste kelp, stone, and the faint sweetness of peat smoke drifting from some unseen cottage miles away. The sky, pale and vast, feels close enough to touch. From here, you can see why it was built. Not as fortress, though it could defend. Not as dwelling, though people once lived within. But as signal, as statement, a tower to remind the sea that the land could answer back. The wind picks up, moving through the Brock's hollow walls, and the sound it makes is astonishing. The structure hums, a low circular note that rises and falls with the gusts, like breath caught inside a shell. It is the same sound, perhaps, that gave the Brock its name in old tongues, the tower that sang to storms. Down below, the sea darkens. The wind grows colder. Clouds begin to gather at the horizon, slow, heavy, deliberate. The storm will come soon. It always does. You step back inside the tower as rain begins to fall. The interior remains dry. The builders understood weather, every gap in the stone placed to breathe, every curve shaped to shed water, every layer angled to lock against collapse. The wind howls outside, but here, within the circle, you are safe. The sound of rain on stone becomes rhythm. You sit near the base, listening. Drops fall through narrow vents, striking the ground in tiny echoes. The air smells of damp rock and time. In this moment, it feels like the tower is breathing with you. You close your eyes. The hum deepens, merging with the pulse of rain. The circle of stone becomes a drum, beating softly with the rhythm of the storm. For the people who built it, the Iron Age settlers who lived by tides and sky, this was more than shelter. It was connection. A place where human hands met the raw mathematics of the earth, where survival and reverence were one. They built this not to dominate, but to harmonize. Outside, the wind shifts. You hear the sea's voice rising, crashing against the rocks below. The brosh hums in answer, a resonance that fills the hollow walls, amplifying the sound of nature until it feels sacred. Somewhere within the stone, the echo becomes something more, almost like song, not melody, but tone, a vibration that belongs to both wind and architecture. You stand and move slowly upward again. The stair narrows, curving like a spiral of thought. The openings along the wall glow faintly, not light, exactly, but reflection from the storm outside. You emerge once more at the top. The world is gray and furious. Waves strike the coast, sending up plumes of white spray. The air tastes electric. Lightning flickers on the horizon, and for a heartbeat, the tower flashes silver, a column of light against the darker sea. Then thunder rolls. You can feel it through your feet, through the stone, through the air itself. And through that thunder, the tower hums again, deeper this time, matching the pitch of the sky. For thousands of years, this circle has stood against storms like this. It has watched raiders, traders, fishermen, and kings pass beneath its gaze. It has outlasted fire, salt, and empire. Yet it remains not because it resists, but because it understands. Round things endure. Wind slides around them. Waves break and reform. The circle does not fight the world, it joins it. As lightning flares once more, you see movement below, not human, but shape. A flock of seabirds rising suddenly from the rocks, startled into the wind. They wheel upward, their wings flashing white, caught in the storm's breath. For a moment they circle the broch, their cries piercing through the roar of weather. The sight feels like ritual. The birds spiral as the tower hums, the storm answers, and the sea below thrashes in rhythm. It is chaos turned to ceremony, and then silence. The rain ceases as quickly as it began. The sky opens, the light returns, soft and gold. The sea flattens into glass. Steam rises faintly from the stones as they dry. The storm has passed, and the tower stands unchanged. You descend slowly, hand brushing the wall as you go. The stone is warm now from friction, from your touch, from its own endurance. Each step echoes softly, fading into the cool air below. When you reach the entrance again, the world outside feels new, washed, reset. The grass glows green under the damp light. Pools of rainwater mirror the sky. You walk a short distance away, turn back, and see the broch as it was meant to be seen, rising solitary and complete against sea and sky. It looks not built, but grown, like the earth decided once to stand and breathe. The wind moves through the upper openings again, and that low hum returns. Softer this time, almost human. The sound carries across the water, across time. Somewhere beyond hearing, it is said that the other broch along this coast answer, their own hollow walls catching the same wind, singing back in kind. A conversation of stone and air, carried for centuries along the edge of the world. Night settles slowly over the Shetland coast. The horizon fades into the same deep gray as the sea, and a fine mist rises, softening the edges of everything. The air grows still, not silent, but listening. Waves roll in without sound, the grass bends without movement. The world becomes a single steady breath. The broch stands in that hush, darker now, its shape blending into the cliffs behind it. The sea glimmers faintly below, silvered by the first light of the moon. You walk closer again, drawn not by curiosity anymore, but by gravity. The tower holds the night like a lantern holds flame, steady, unwavering, alive. The entrance is shadowed. You step inside and pause. The air smells of rain, salt, and something faintly mineral, the scent of age itself. Every sound you make returns to you, softened, as if the stone absorbs your voice and gives it back as thought. You light a small lantern, and its glow travels upward, catching the rough curve of the walls, the spiral stairs that vanish into darkness, the small pockets of air built between layers of stone. The light flickers and settles, and the tower begins to breathe again, a low hum in rhythm with the faint wind threading through its vents. You sit on the cold floor near the center. The stones radiate the memory of the day's warmth, faint but certain. The sound of the sea filters through the gaps. Slow, tidal, endless. Somewhere in the hollow wall, a single drop of water falls and echoes like a heartbeat. If this place could speak in language, what would it say? It might tell you that circles hold, that what returns is never lost, that stillness is a kind of motion, the turning of time inside form. For centuries, people used this brooch as refuge. When raiders came, when the sea turned violent, when the wind tore roofs from the crofts, they came here. Families, fishermen, children. They brought the small warmth of their lives into this cold perfection, and the tower welcomed it. Within these walls, they waited while storms passed, listening to the same low hum you hear now. The tower's voice was constant then, too, a reassurance. Outside, the moon climbs higher. Its light spills through the openings, painting narrow bands on the stone. Dust drifts through the beams like smoke. You can see the staircase in outline, the spine of the tower. Slowly, you climb, your lantern casting arcs of gold that slide along the walls. Each turn of the spiral feels like descent and ascent at once, time folding inward. The air grows colder as you near the top, but the sound grows richer, layered with the deep resonance of the sea. You emerge again into night air. The world is a black mirror, the sea and sky reflecting one another perfectly. Stars bloom above, sharp and clear. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens, its white trail mirrored faintly in the wet sheen of tide far below. You set the lantern aside and stand at the rim of the broch, wind moving softly through your hair. From here, everything feels eternal, the stars, the water, the endless breathing of the planet beneath you. The tower hums faintly, responding to the breeze. It is the same tone you heard at dawn, at noon, through storm and calm. A single continuous note that has lasted 2,000 years. You close your eyes. For a moment the hum changes, becomes layered, harmonized, as if another note has joined it. Then another. It's not imagination. Across the dark sea, other sounds drift on the wind, the faint hollow resonance of stone meeting air. Other brochs. Mousa was never alone. There were once hundreds across these coasts, each one placed within sight of another, each one built to signal, to call, to answer. Fire at night, smoke by day, voice through the wind. A chain of circles stretching across the northern isles, carrying messages between worlds, of safety, of warning, of presence. Tonight they are mostly ruins, but the air remembers their song. The wind threads through their hollow hearts, and the notes travel still, carried across the sea. You listen, and in the deep quiet, you can almost hear it, the ghost of connection, the hum of an ancient network still alive in the breath of wind. The circle was not just architecture, it was communication between people, between land and sea, between earth and sky. You breathe in, feeling the cold fill your lungs, and breathe out slowly. Your breath mingles with the air moving through the tower, becomes part of its sound. The line between you and it disappears. You are no longer visitor, you are resonance. The tower hums back. The stars shimmer faintly in response. Somewhere far below, a seal calls, its long note rising through the night like a lament. The sound bounces off the cliffs, joins the hum, becomes harmony. The sea breathes again. You realize what the circle means, not just structure, but promise. That every ending curves back into beginning. That what faces destruction also faces renewal. That even silence can become voice when time listens long enough. The Brodal's builders are dust now. The tools that shaped these stones have long vanished. The language they spoke has changed beyond recognition. Yet the circle remains, whole, balanced, unbroken. It will remain long after you are gone, and every time the wind passes through, every time the sea exhales against the cliffs, every time the sky opens its hand to light, the Brodal will answer. Not in words, in presence. You take one last look at the horizon. The eastern edge of the world glows faintly, the first hint of dawn returning. The stars begin to fade. The sea turns silver again, patient, waiting. The hum softens, the wind gentles, the tower grows quiet once more, content in its stillness. You descend slowly, steps careful, echoes following you downward. The air inside is warmer now, filled with the scent of stone and sea. At the doorway you pause, touching the wall one final time. It feels alive, not with heat, but with memory. Outside, the grass gleams with dew. A bird cries once, calling the morning. You walk away from the broch, its shadow stretching long behind you. When you turn back for the last time, the circle stands clear against the brightening sky. It does not shine, it does not speak, it simply exists, perfect, patient, present, and as the sun lifts over the horizon, the tower catches its first light, the stones warm, the air hums, and for a single heartbeat, you could swear the circle is breathing again. A low note drifts across the water, deep, round, endless. The sky wakes, the world listens, and the circle endures. The cliff that devoured voices. Before the first breath of dawn touches the mountains of northern China, the air already carries a secret. The wind moves through the narrow valleys like a whisper trying to remember its own words. Mist floats low across the ground, silver and slow, hiding the curves of the land, as if the earth itself doesn't want to be seen yet. Then, faintly, a sound rises. Not birds, not water, but something older. A hum that seems to come from the mountain itself. You follow a winding stone path that climbs from forest to ridge, the air growing thinner with each turn. The trees give way to rock, cliffs rising sheer and pale against the dim light. The path narrows. Beneath your feet, the stones are smooth, worn by centuries of pilgrims who came before you. Some came to pray, some to listen, some just to be reminded that silence is never truly silent. At the highest bend, the path widens into a plateau. A small shrine stands at its edge, simple and weathered, its roof curved like the wings of a bird resting mid-flight. Around it, the cliff face rises higher still, nearly vertical, its surface veined with quartz and streaked with iron red. And there, along the smooth curve of the rock, runs a faint band of carved symbols. Barely visible now, their meaning lost, but their intention unmistakable. They were meant to speak. This is the Echo Wall Shrine, a place where sound itself was once sacred. You approach slowly, the wind has stopped, the air is thick, holding its breath. You stand before the cliff, only a few meters away, and whisper something small, your name perhaps, or a question you do not expect to be answered. The sound bounces, folds, and returns. Not loudly, not sharply, but softly, curved like your voice has traveled somewhere far away, and come back changed. It is unmistakably you, yet not. Older, rounder, as though it has gathered something along the way. You whisper again, and this time you can hear more than echo. You hear depth, a layered resonance, as if the cliff holds every voice that has ever spoken to it. It is said that the monks who once kept this shrine called the mountain the listener. They believed the rock was not reflecting sound, but remembering it. Every prayer, every chant, every confession, stored in layers of resonance, deep within the cliff's hollow heart. When the wind moved through its cracks just right, they said, the mountain answered back. You step closer. The stone is cool beneath your palm, but not dead. Vibrations move faintly through it, a pulse, a slow rhythm, like breath captured in mineral. You lean your ear to the surface. At first, there is nothing. Then, almost too faint to believe, a sound, a whisper, not of words but of movement. The sound of air circling inside unseen chambers. The echo wall is not smooth by accident. It curves in a near-perfect arc, each inch of it shaped to carry sound in a continuous loop. The monks who carved it centuries ago understood something that modern acoustics would only later rediscover. That stone can shape memory. They built their shrine at the focus point of the curve, where voice and reflection met in perfect balance. When one spoke from this place, their words would travel along the rock and return whole, a conversation with the mountain itself. And over time, people began to notice something else. Voices returned different, softer, slower, sometimes lower, as though the stone changed the sound to match the weight of the words. If you shouted in anger, the echo came back gentle. If you whispered in grief, the echo came back strong. If you sang, the mountain harmonized. It was not reflection, they said. It was interpretation. You walk slowly along the curve now, tracing the faint symbols with your fingers. They spiral inward and outward like sound waves carved in stone. Beneath them, narrow fissures run deep into the rock, channels where air and vibration pass, forming invisible instruments of the earth. You can almost imagine the scene long ago, monks in saffron robes, standing at dusk, their chants rising into the sky, their voices joining, overlapping, becoming one long, unbroken note that climbed the cliff and folded back upon itself until the whole mountain seemed to hum. And then silence again. But a silence full of memory. You close your eyes. The faint hum continues, not from outside, but from within. It fills the air behind your ribs, the base of your throat. You breathe in time with it without meaning to. The mountain breathes with you. Stories say that once, during a great drought, the monks gathered the entire village here. They stood along the curve of the wall and sang. For 3 days and nights, their voices filled the valley, echoing endlessly, until rain finally came. The villagers believed the mountain had spoken to the sky. No one could explain it. No one ever tried to. The shrine is small, only a single chamber of wood and stone at the base of the wall, open to the wind. Inside, offerings remain. Coins darkened by age, folded prayers written on paper, thinned by rain. A single bronze bell hangs from the beam above, its surface green with patina. You strike it gently. The sound rings pure and round, rolling outward, one note becoming many as it travels along the curve. You wait for its return. It comes. Not as one tone, but as three. The first, your own. The second, lower, deep, resonant. It feels less like echo, more like reply. The light has changed now. The sun, still hidden behind cloud, has begun to bleed through the mist. The rock glows faintly gold, as though remembering warmth. In that half-light, the carvings seem to move. Waves of shadow ripple across the stone, and for a heartbeat you think you see faces, countless, overlapping, emerging and fading again. But it is only the trick of dawn, or perhaps only what dawn allows you to see. The air shifts, a breeze rises, moving down the valley and into the cracks of the cliff. The sound that follows is extraordinary, a long, hollow note that swells from within the mountain itself. It's not loud, but it fills everything. It is the sound of the mountain answering. You stand perfectly still. The note rises, deepens, and breaks into faint harmonics, layers upon layers of tone, each vibrating with impossible precision. You can feel it in your chest, your arms, your teeth. The air trembles, dust lifts from the ground in tiny spirals. Then, just as suddenly, it fades, leaving only the quiet rush of wind through the trees below. You exhale, realizing you had forgotten to breathe. The monks believed the mountain's voice was not sound but balance, that every tone it returned was shaped by the intention of what was given. To them, the echo wall was a mirror for the unseen. They called it the cliff that devoured voices, not because it swallowed them, but because it transformed them. Whatever you said here, you lost, but what you received back was truer. You whisper again, quietly, a single word. The mountain answers, faint, soft, but there. You do not hear your word repeated. You hear meaning returned, and then, silence once more. But it's not empty. The silence here has weight. It feels alive. You step back, turning toward the valley. The mist has almost lifted now, revealing terraces of green, fields and rivers, the distant roof of a village catching the new sun. The cliff glows brighter behind you. The shrine hums faintly in the rising warmth. Somewhere, deep in the rock, your voice lingers, joining the thousands before it, folded forever into the slow breath of stone. The mountain listens still. Evening slides down the valley like a shadow that remembers its path. The sun sinks behind the mountains, and the mist that had lifted at noon returns again, slower this time, deliberate, thoughtful. The fields below fade from green to silver. The shrine grows darker until only its curved roof catches the last faint trace of light. The air cools, the wind stops, and the world waits. You stay, not out of purpose, but instinct. The place doesn't ask you to leave. It asks you to listen. As dusk thickens, the first star appears, a single sharp point above the ridge, then another, and another. Soon the whole sky hums faintly with cold fire. Down below, the river murmurs in the dark, its sound climbing the cliff like a thread of water and memory. You walk back toward the wall. The carvings, invisible by day, glow faintly in moonlight, shallow spirals catching the silver and turning it into motion. You whisper again, only this time, you say nothing with meaning, only breath shaped into sound. The air holds it for a moment, then carries it away. No echo returns. Not yet. Instead, the silence deepens until it begins to hum. It's faint at first. A vibration felt more than heard, but soon it grows, spreading across the rock like ripples through glass. The sound moves outward, curving along the wall, around the shrine, and back toward you. It surrounds you, a low, endless tone that seems to come from every direction at once. You step closer to the cliff. The vibration grows stronger. The air between you and the stone shivers. Visible, alive. You reach out and touch the surface. It's warm. Not the warmth of sun, but of motion, the faint heat of something working from within. You can feel the sound in your bones now, not your ears. It's an enormous, gentle weight pressing against your chest, matching your heartbeat, guiding your breath. It doesn't frighten you. It welcomes you. The ancient monks called this the second voice. They said the mountain would not answer a person twice in the same way, that once it knew your sound, it spoke in return, not to your words, but to your being. You close your eyes. The vibration continues, wrapping around you like a pulse. Then within it, smaller sounds begin to appear, higher, lighter, like wind chimes submerged in air. One by one they gather. The hum becomes harmony. The harmony becomes breath. The breath becomes shape. And suddenly you realize, the mountain is not echoing, it's remembering. You hear faint threads of chant, fragments of syllables, human but distant, interwoven with the hum. The monks' voices, then others, laughter, prayer, song, sigh. The residue of centuries layered together, still alive inside the cliff. Each one faint, each one clear, each one returning in time with the wind. It isn't haunting, it's communion. The echo wall isn't devouring voices, it's preserving them. It's a library of sound, an archive of everything ever spoken to it, vibrating endlessly through its hollows. You imagine those hidden chambers deep inside the rock, natural caverns shaped by ancient fault lines, their walls polished smooth by time, amplifying and folding sound upon sound. The mountain itself is an instrument, tuned by accident or by design, its chambers singing to each other in frequencies too low for most to hear. Yet tonight, with no wind, no noise, and your breath aligned to its rhythm, you can hear it. And you understand why the shrine was built here, not on some mountaintop of grandeur, but here, where sound and silence meet in equilibrium. The people who carved this place knew that gods do not live in heaven, or in words, they live in vibration. Every voice ever spoken is still moving, changed, but never gone. The hum deepens again. The rock glows faintly, just along its curve, pale light rippling beneath the surface, the faint bioluminescence of minerals reacting to friction and vibration. For a moment, the whole cliff seems to breathe. And then, in that breath, you hear your own voice return. It's softer now, slower, the tone stretched and smoothed, carrying something it didn't before. It sounds not like you are speaking to the mountain, but as though the mountain is speaking through you. You exhale, and the sound fades. But its echo does not. It lingers, long after silence should have fallen, like a hand resting gently on your shoulder. You step back, slowly. The air cools again. The hum quiets. The glow in the rock fades back into gray. The night is whole once more. The shrine roof creaks in the settling air. The bell moves slightly, a soft clink of bronze on bronze. You look up at it. No wind, yet it sways, catching the faintest shimmer of starlight. One final note rings, delicate, uncertain, and then vanishes into the valley. The mountain is quiet, but you know it is listening. You stand there until the moon has crossed the zenith, until your breath becomes mist in the cold, until the rhythm in your body matches the rhythm of the land. When you finally turn to leave, you don't say goodbye, you don't whisper, you simply breathe once, slowly, letting the sound of it blend with the air. And the mountain answers, not in echo, not in sound, but in stillness, a stillness so deep it feels like being seen. You walk back down the winding path. The forest below is silver in moonlight. The river murmurs faintly, carrying away the last trace of your voice. Behind you, the cliff glows for one last moment, a single line of light sliding across the stone like a closing eye. Then the night takes it back. The mountain sleeps again, but it dreams in sound. And within that dream, every word, every breath, every prayer, ever spoken there still turns. Slowly, endlessly. Thank you for wandering these quiet corners of the world with me. If this journey moved you, please like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is there. Your presence keeps these forgotten places breathing in the dark. Until next time, may the world's old whispers follow you gently into sleep.